Hey, greetings. It is GleeCon, and I am here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. I'm back at you one more time after our romp today. On our last episode, we ran through the Wailing Caverns with a tank, a warrior, protection warrior. I guess the only true tanks, depending on which Reddit that you read, makes me a little bit hesitant to try to tank it with my um, enhancement shaman, but I'm going to do that off camera, and I think I did fine last time, so I'm only kind of hesitant. We've also been reading and in that one we read that, hey, Naralax, the head of a sect of druids known as the Druids of the Fang, they're kind of getting trapped in their dream state, and it's causing corruption and taint, and we start to get some inkling that maybe there is a emerald nightmare going on behind all of this. We also started reading the Dungeons and Dragons source book, one of the last ones. It's a monster manual, and we read last time we read it, we read letters A through D. So we're just going to try to read a chunk of this as well, see where we get. So stay a while and listen as we continue this journey. On the last episode, we actually also discovered, I already knew there was an online addendum to this book, which we were going to read after, but I also discovered that there are online campaigns that might be worth looking into. I'm going to have to see how many there are, how extensive it is, how lore heavy they are, but we'll give them a try too. I saw one for the Wailing Caverns when I was researching Wailing Caverns, so we might have unearthed a whole treasure trove of other interesting online-only lore-ish content. But it might be perfect for us to get the greater story, since a lot of the times, especially when I do instances, I'm kind of distracted with what's going on in my commentary, and lore focus isn't as good as it could be. We are also going to be moving to a better studio sound soon. I've ordered the furniture and materials needed to convert one of my rooms into a better, more soundproof area. So that should be here in the next few days, and I'll start setting it up, and I'd say within a week or so we should start to see that, a new setting, a new background for the vids, and hopefully improved audio quality. So we're going to kick off with ease, and we're going to start with elementals. The elemental plane is a violent and dangerous place where elementals of one type battle with all others in a never-ending conflict to expand their territory. And you can visit it in Cataclysm when you're doing the Thrall questline. It is no wonder then that some elementals escape from the unceasing struggle by traveling to Azeroth, where they establish solitary lairs in suitable environments. Such transplanted elementals find it difficult to shake off the warlike existence they lived on the elemental plane. Excuse me. They guard their new territory viciously and constantly seek to expand their boundaries. All elementals speak Kalamag. All elementals, whether summoned to Azeroth or there of their own free will, wear a set of magic bracers. These bracers form automatically when the elemental leaves the elemental plane. They tie the elemental to Azeroth and allow it to exist outside the elemental plane. That explains why they're always wearing those bracers, and why when you kill them, that's all that's left behind. An elemental that loses its bracers also loses much of its power and might inadvertently return to the elemental plane. Okay, so those bracers it says if they lose their bracers, they have to basically make a save or be banished. And even if they save, they're weakened significantly. So there's different elemental types. There's lesser, normal, and greater wind elementals. There's whirlwind, rippers, shredders, and stormwalkers. These are levels 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11, respectively. And let's read about them. This creature appears as a crackling cloud with 2 glowing orbs for eyes. 2 columns of mist, shot through with lightning, extend from the cloud like giant arms, each one encircled with blue metal bracers, even though that shows kind of red and gold right there. The first ones you can encounter are in Westfall, some dust devils. Air elementals. The violent and territorial monarchs of the skies favor mountaintops and other high places for their lairs. They seek to affect change in the world, for example, erosion via wind. Air elementals create whirlwinds to suck up their enemies and also blind them with dust storms. Air elementals are the fastest and most agile of the elementals, moving with silent grace. An air elemental uses its special attacks whenever possible. It engulfs smaller opponents in its whirlwind first. And that kind of like is a stun that druids can also use. If the elemental sees no opponent small enough to affect it, targets combatants with its dust cloud before engaging in melee. Looks like the dust cloud is sort of like grit gets in your eyes and it makes you, I don't know. Doesn't really say. It just says, no, oh, they're blinded. Makes sense. And then the whirlwind, they can transform themselves into a whirlwind and suck creatures up. In the game, it's more like a whirlwind they cast on you. Doesn't really say a ton else. The whirlwind, they're also the stealthiest of the elementals. The whirlwind rippers also have scour, which is just like a ripping, they rip the gear straight off your body. Their winds are so strong. The whirlwind stormwalker, the apex one, this hulking massive air and debris swirls in a constant whirlwind. Chunks of dirt and dust tint the creature a muddy brown. Two glowing yellow eyes shine in a blunt head, and two brass bracers encircle its formless arms. Maybe that's kind of what we're looking at there. All right, earth elementals with the probably the same challenge ratings, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. There's lesser, regular, and greater rock elementals, as well as thundering boulderkin, rumbling exiles, and enraged rock elementals. Yeah, 7, 9, 11. This hulking massive rock bears a humanoid torso. It's more like a boulder. Like a smaller boulder, like an inverted snowman. A flat head with glowing eyes and two muscular stone arms encircled by giant copper bracers. Its torso trails away into a pile of formless rocks that floats along the ground, and they kind of like rumble, almost like little treads. Earth elementals, the strongest of all elementals, are beings of destruction. They use their tremendous strength to batter their enemies. They move through stone as easily as a human walks along the ground, and while they look like they might fly, they always remain in contact with the ground. Large and larger earth elementals, so that would be the greater rock elementals and above, favor grappling attacks as their size and strength give them a significant advantage over most enemies. When possible, earth elementals bull rush their opponents into walls or off cliffs, so they gain extra bonuses to push. They can smash, which allows them to hurt objects. They have an earth glide, which allows them to move through earth. Rumbling exiles, and I believe that was the penultimately the challenge rating 9 ones, differ from their solitary brethren, being aggressive roamers who leave their territories in search of new enemies against which to test their strength. They find no greater pleasure than combat, particularly combat with creatures they've never seen before. And enraged rock elementals, the strongest one, can also enter like a berserk rage. Okay, fire elementals, same, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. There's the lesser, regular, and greater living flames, and then flaming and blazing elementals, and the strongest is called the Fiery Destroyer. I'm sure you can see these all in game. This strange being is formed of blazing flames held together to create the appearance of a muscular humanoid torso. Black metal bracers, like, I don't know, onyx or something, encircle the thing's arms, and its torso trails off into a fiery tail. Fire elementals are beings of hate and cruelty. They enjoy causing pain. Fire elementals ignite all that they touch and consume the air around them. Fire elementals prefer close combat where they can see set their opponents alight and take no damage from the resulting blaze. They initiate combat with a suffocate attack to weaken their enemies. I guess they're suffocating with smoke before engaging in melee. Cunning foes, fire elementals, lure their opponents into dangerous areas such as dry forests. The elemental can set alight. Fire elementals are intelligent enough to attack only those who seem easy targets, and they usually flee when the battle turns against them. Okay, so they have a burn attack, which is like when they slam you, when they punch you, it can also like set you alight. And they suffocate with the smoke. Blazing elementals can also use a blaze, which erupts an inferno, they erupt as an inferno. Then it's kind of like an AoE. Everyone around them takes damage. Fiery destroyers can also consume. Basically, when they kill something, nothing is left but ash, and so they can't be rezzed. That's interesting. Lava elementals. Oh, so we have a 12 and 17. So even stronger fire eventually can combine, I guess, earth and fire and make lava elementals. These are 12 and 17. This blocky humanoid, its torso formed of fluid black rock, glows with a red inner light. Molten lava oozes from its great fists. So maybe you find these later game. We haven't seen any of them yet. The molten core. Lava elementals are destructive creatures that consume everything they touch with their powerful heat. Some theorize that lava elementals may be related to fire elementals, but the two do not seem to get along. Lava elementals fight for their own territory and refuse to share with their fiery brethren. A lava elemental appears as a floating, vaguely humanoid shape composed of large boulders. These boulders are in truth blobs of molten lava. While the lava elemental trails a few inches off the ground, it cannot rise any higher. A lava elemental stands nearly 15 feet high and weighs about 2,000 pounds. Lava elementals enjoy targeting enemies with heavy armor, thus making good use of their impacting blow ability. They use their power attack feat to its fullest degree and divide their attacks among their enemies in order to affect as many as possible with their lava seer ability. Impacting blow, just they get to ignore half the armor of their opponents. Lava seer, their base slam lets them kind of set people on fire, it looks like, and successive attacks make it last longer. Interesting. Okay, so there's also the Lava Surger, the strongest one. Lava Surgers are larger, more powerful lava elementals. Their enormous forms radiate intense heat, causing the air around them to shimmer and twist. They have a surge, so they engulf people in their molten form. You can attack. It's kind of like being swallowed. You can attack from within. Wow, a DC 38 reflex save to be engulfed. If it like puts its whole body on top of you, you're basically screwed. And then you're constantly seared. All right, so we're on the last type, which is the water elementals. There are the lesser, normal, and greater deep elementals. Befouled water elementals, same DCs 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Sea sprays and sea elementals. This muscular humanoid is formed from glimmering blue-green water, polished brass bracers encircle its hefty arms, and two glowing blue eyes shine from its featureless head. I don't know if I've seen eyes, like they're more like slits. Its torso trails off into a vestigial whirlpool. Water elementals, perhaps the most versatile of all the elementals, possess strong arms, quick reflexes, and hardy constitutions. Enemies fear them, for water elementals possess devastating slam attacks, numbing blows, and the capacity to form powerful whirlpools. They're also the most secretive. Many have never seen daylight and dwell near ocean wrecks and forgotten cities. Yeah, so what's the stat improvement of a fire elemental? What do they have that's the best? I don't see anything amazing. Because you have agility for the wind, you have strength for the earth. I don't know. I guess they're just kind of like all around decent. The fire are, and then these, the lava, the water have constitution. They are also the most secretive. Many have never seen daylight and dwell near ocean wrecks and forgotten cities. Human archmagi preferred summoning water elementals over all other elementals during the Third War. Of all the elementals, adventurers are most likely to succeed in diplomatic overtures with water elementals. Okay, so they're like the least evil. It does say they're chaotic neutral, as opposed to, say, the lava, which, oh, they're all chaotic neutral. So I guess they're just slightly less chaotic. Water elementals rely on their vortex as a primary attack and then switch to melee combat as appropriate. They focus their numbing blows on a single target, hoping to neutralize one threat before turning their attention to other combatants. They can drench, which just puts fire out. They have a numbing blow. They can do an attack that basically it's like a cold slowing. They have a vortex. It's probably similar to the air vortex. Oh yeah, they kind of suck creatures into it, and they can eject things when they want. It says if they're touching the sea bed, they can add extra dirt and silt and stuff into it, which then clouds vision as well. The befouled water elementals possess ugly temperaments that reflect their powers. These creatures corrupt water with a touch and take great pleasure in ruining wells and freshwater streams, especially when the result sickens animals and other creatures. So they're evil. I think you find some of those in Black Fathom Deeps. They can corrupt water as an additional skill. The Sea sprays possess a ranged attack. Whenever possible, they stay at maximum range and attack enemies as they draw near with their spray. They just eject like water streams. All right, so Blood Elves at this point, because they're not really playable characters, they can be challenge rating 1 monsters, and I'm sure you can make them use this as a template. Standing before you is what appears to be a high elf bearing odd red tattoos across her face and arms. Upon closer examination, her hair and skin are much paler than that of a high elf, and her eyes glint with a green light. She wears blood red robes. Blood elves are a desperate race who were once high elves. During the Third War, King Arthas' scourge sacked Quel'Thalas and shattered the elven race, slaying more than 90% of the high elven population. Prince Kael'thas Sunstrider was studying magic in Dalaran at the time of the disaster. When he heard what had happened, he quickly returned home and took command of the survivors. Kael'thas renamed them Blood Elves in honor of their fallen kin. And I feel like, I think that's like an example of Blizzard coming up with a story after the fact. They're like, Blood Elves sounds cool, make them red. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to call them that because they're honoring their blood relatives that died. This is thin to me. Prior to the Sunwell's destruction, all high elves everywhere were constantly bathed in its magical power. Now bereft of this arcane energy, the Blood Elves and High Elves suffered. Kael'thas claimed that they would soon die without another magical source to replace the Sunwell. The Blood Elves therefore set about learning to drain magic from alternative sources. Soon, the Blood Elves clashed with the Scourge and the Amani Trolls, who were making inroads into former elven territory. The Blood Elves defended their homeland, and eventually, having re-established a degree of safety to their land and prevented their society from degenerating, Kael'thas left. He took a group of the strongest Blood Elf warriors and spellcasters and joined the alliance against the Scourge. They were easy to revenge themselves on the undead forces. However, bigotry prevented the human forces from seeing the aid the Blood Elves could bring to their fight. Imprisoned and sentenced to death by the humans who had commanded them, the Blood Elves escaped, fled to Outland, and joined Illidan's Storm Mage's forces. This group of Blood Elves then helped defeat the demon mag Therodon and claimed his Black Citadel as their own. Okay. And that's obviously not still the case. And this book is coming out like when it's rumored that Wrath of the Lich King is going to drop, like months before that. In exchange for the Blood Elves' loyal service, Illidan gave them a place to live, as well as further techniques to siphon mana from anything with arcane power. Blood Elves on Outland now hunt demons and feed off the demons' magic. As a consequence, despite what other races might suspect, Blood Elves are hardly on friendly terms with demons. Indeed, Blood Elves, too, view demons with abhorrence. Even Blood Elf warlocks believe demons are useful tools, not potential allies. Not every Blood Elf lives in Outland. Most Blood Elves still live on Azeroth, particularly in Quel'Thalas. These Blood Elves seek to reclaim their lost homeland and destroy the Scourge at any cost. While they despise most other races, they are coming to accept that the Forsaken are different, or at least share the same goals as the Blood Elves. Blood Elves resemble their High Elf cousins. While most Blood Elves are not spellcasters, those who are sometimes delve into the forbidden art of fell magic. These elves have glowing green eyes. The more they use fell magic, the brighter the glow. Blood Elves often wear red, and many go so far as to tattoo red sigils across their bodies. Some scholars argue that the Blood Elves will evolve further over the years, perhaps eventually becoming to High Elves, as satyrs are to Night Elves. Blood Elves speak Thalassian. Okay. Blood Elves rarely engage in battle, instead preferring to use guile and lead characters into ambushes wherein allies summoned demons can wreak havoc. The Blood Elf presented above uses the Elite Ability Score Array and has 1 level in the Warrior class. They are also good at Concentration, Arcana Knowledge, and Spellcraft, and they can be characters. They're not insane or evil, they just decide to fight fire with fire. So at this stage, they're not Alliance or Horde, but we know that changes. It says most become Warlocks or Mages, but they can also be Hunter, Rogue, Warrior, okay, and Paladin as well, although that's not here. They do have a magic addiction and a racial animosity against demons. They are good with scimitars, short swords, short bows, and yeah. They can take the Blood Elf class for now. Yeah, so all of these things are like obviously before Blood Elves are considered. Okay, just in general, an elite creature, which is actually what we just mentioned. Some monsters are especially tough, yeah, like elite rares. Adventurers call these creatures elite, whereas a normal specimen of a certain breed might fall easily to a lone hero. To defeat an elite creature of the same type requires careful planning, a group of heroes, excellent tactics, or all three, like kiting. Elite creatures often look different than their non-elite counterparts, being larger, having barbs on their horns and claws, possessing glowing eyes, or evincing other such indication of their power. Some elites, however, look just like normal creatures of their kind, and it is not until a hero engages it that he realizes, perhaps too late, that it is far tougher than he expected. Okay. While elite creatures are decidedly stronger and faster than non-elites, they are infamous not for size and speed but for their durability. They're able to withstand punishment that would kill non-elites several times over. Elite specimens appear in every creature type, and then it tells you how to create them. They gain extra agility and strength, extra hit die, some feats, extra feats. And they give you a sample elite dark iron rifleman, a challenge rating 13. This orange bearded dwarf crouches behind a boulder. A wicked large bore rifle is propped on the rock beside him. Dark Iron Riflemen are among the key defenses of the Dark Iron Dwarves. They range out from Black Rock Spire as snipers and scouts, bringing death to their enemies and information back to their superiors. They have a particular hatred for Ironforged Dwarves and enjoy sniping at them from cover. Dark Iron Riflemen are stealthy snipers, even in heavy plate armor. They slink through broken country until they come to an ambush point, perhaps a boulder atop a hill overlooking a road. There they wait for enemies to pass by, letting loose with a barrage of fiery lead. They prefer to initiate combat from 100 to 500 feet away, depending on visibility, so they can get in a number of shots with their rifles before their enemies close. This Dark Iron Rifleman uses the Elite Ability Score array. See Chapter 3, Improving Monsters. Okay. All right. We also have Entropic Beasts. Entropic Beasts are level 7 and the slightly more powerful Entropic Horror. They look like fell elementals. The flames form a vaguely man-like shape that advances angrily, blazing with a greenish fire that hints of corruption. Entropic beasts were once fire elementals that have since been tainted with the corruption of fellwood. Driven mad by their exile, they now seek to destroy all living things. Entropic beasts resemble fire elementals in all but their greenish tint. As they haunt areas of severe destruction, such as the Shattered Vale, they may be tied to such areas in some way. If they detect an intruder in the broken landscape, they attack without question until they or the invader are destroyed. Although they do not attack each other or other fire elementals, entropic beasts do not communicate or cooperate unless they happen to be wandering in the same area at the same time some unlucky traveler happens across them. Entropic beasts blaze up to 12 feet high and weigh 300 pounds. I don't know how that... I guess it's a heavy magma. They may once have been able to speak or understand Calamag, but do so no longer. Yeah, they're just crazy now. Entropic beasts savagely attack anything that intrudes on their domain except other entropic beasts, entropic horrors, or fire elementals. They seem to delight particularly in setting creatures afire and watching them burn to death. And they have the burn, as we talked about, and they have an entropic shield. Basically giving things a chance, giving them an automatic dodge chance. Okay. An entropic horror looks exactly like an entropic beast and is just as insane. Its true nature becomes evident only when it engages in combat, for the unnatural fire that burns within it drains the life from its opponents. Like entropic beasts, entropic horrors attack any living thing that they encounter ruthlessly and without remorse. They too have burn, except it's stronger, and they have an entropic drain where they can actually do stamina damage. One moment, I gotta mute the thing behind me. All right, so yeah, my son was playing WoW right before I started this video, and he left it on, and you know when it kicks to that, it's distracting enough that it's picking it up in my mic now. That I don't know will change when I move it into the new room, because I'll still have that second one there, and my son will still want to play from time to time. So I just have to be better as well, more professional, and remember to turn those kind of things off. All right, so we're moving on to Fs now. I think we're making pretty good time. I mean, I think we're at about 41, 42, 43. So it's been about, I don't know that we're going to get through more than like 2 letters this time. It's going a little bit slower, but we'll see. All right, the Felguard. Felguard and Felguard Elite. Challenge rating 8 and 12. This creature, so we're on to Fs. This creature looks like a tall, muscular humanoid with red skin and glowing eyes. Its legs, arms, shoulders, and head are covered in wicked armor that sports sharp spines and blades. It raises a fiendish halberd above its head and unleashes an unearthly roar. Felguard are the barbaric foot soldiers of the Burning Legion. While most other demons rely to some extent on magic and trickery, Felguard eschew these subtleties, instead relying on their sheer strength to overwhelm their foes. While under the command of a higher-ranking demon or a warlock, a Felguard makes the perfect soldier. Each is a disciplined follower outside of combat, calm and patient. When commanded to fight, however, they become wild and merciless. An army of raging Felguard is a terrifying sight. That's these guys there. The Felguard's skin color varies. Red, blue, yellow, black are common. They're 7.5 feet tall, weigh about 350 pounds, and they speak Eredun, which means they're somehow related to the Eridar, to the Draenei. A raging Felguard is reckless but not stupid. It coordinates well with its allies and usually obeys orders if it can hear them over its deafening battle cries. A Felguard loves battle, sometimes refusing to flee from a combat that it believes it has a chance of winning. Demonic generals know and accept this limitation and plan their strategies accordingly. They have damage resistance against good creatures, and they can enter a berserk rage. Felguard elites have proven themselves in combat and are given additional power and authority by the Burning Legion. They serve as sergeants and squad leaders. Much larger than normal Felguard, the elites stand out among their kin. They carry a particularly nasty type of halberd they refer to as a Netheraxe, which is a large-sized +1 unholy halberd. This weapon is both a symbol of rank and a useful tool against the virtuous. Okay, so they're 14 feet tall. They weigh 2,600 pounds. They gain extra... in combat, Felguard Elite fight like their lesser counterparts, but are better at both giving and following orders. They can also rage out. Okay, Felhounds have a challenge rating 6, 10, and 14 variety. There's the Felhound, the Felstalker, and the Fel Ravager. So in case you're wondering, that's the order. This red-skinned creature looks vaguely like a hound, though one with a massive toothy head that makes up nearly a third of its length. Great horns jut out just above its solid white eyes. Felhounds are demonic hounds that feed on magic. They can sense the presence of nearby magic and hunt spellcasters unerringly. Their powerful jaws are huge and filled with slender teeth. Their eyes are weak. To get around, Felhounds rely on their ability to sense magic. This sense is also how they track their prey. Felhounds are Pitlord's personal hunting hounds, starved for both blood and arcane energy. Pitlords grow Felhounds somewhere in the twisting nether. Felhounds do not speak, though they understand Eredun. Felhounds treat spellcasters, particularly arcane spellcasters, as layered desserts with meat on the outside and magic on the inside. Less magical characters are worth notice only if they have damaged a Felhound in the past round. They can pounce, they can sense magic, and they have spell resistance. Felstalkers are larger and more vicious versions of Felhounds, these guys. They are also marginally more intelligent, and their skin tends toward mottled red. Felstalkers use tactics similar to Felhounds, save that they can burn away portions of magical energy from their opponents. They use this ability at the beginning of combat on the most powerful enemy spellcaster and then pounce, which is mana burn. They have a mana burn trait. Okay. The strongest is the Fel Ravager. These are the largest and strongest of Felhounds. They are also the most intelligent, which allows skilled demonic trainers to implant spell-like abilities in the creature. Normal Felhounds prefer spellcasters, but Fel Ravagers are so well trained that they ignore melee opponents entirely in favor of spellcasters, especially arcane casters. A Fel Ravager Also manifests demonic spell-like abilities brought out due to its higher intelligence, coupled with the intense training it undergoes to become an elite caster-killing machine. It has mana burn, but it has abilities like detecting good, dispel magic, shadow bolt, cause fear, darkness. Interesting. Fell steeds. These are literally the mounts that warlocks summon. That's all they're I don't think I don't know if you fight them or not ever. There's Fell Steeds, which is challenge rating 3, and then the faster mount, the Dread Steed, challenge rating 7. This large, powerful horse has a brown coat and smoldering eyes. Flames flare from its nostrils and wreathe its hooves, leaving a scorched trail in its path. Fell Steeds are the fiery, equine servants of the Burning Legion. At one time, they were common horses that became enslaved and fell to the Burning Legion's sinister influence. Now corrupted and evil, they feel both intense loyalty and burning hatred toward their demon masters. Many warlocks choose a Fell Steed as a Fell companion for the practical convenience of travel on demand. To the Fell Steed, there's no difference between a mortal master and a demon. Both serve its contempt and obedience. A Fell Steed is about the size of a light warhorse. A Fell Steed is trained and bred for strength and aggression, but not normally for combat. It can fight while carrying a rider, but the rider cannot also attack unless he or she succeeds on the ride check. So basically, in game WoW terms, no, they can't. They can't fight. So for Dread Steeds, this black horse has a grotesquely demonic appearance, multiple spines, and hard... That must be what we're looking at here. Bony plates cover its head and sides. Flames writhe around its hooves and eyes, and it snorts a short, fiery breath as it exhales. Lord Helnarath's fearsome Dread Steeds are his most prized possessions. Intensely bred and darkly twisted for war, they now roam the fiery plains of Zoroth, the envy of many demonic lords. It may be possible for a warlock to steal one of these fine beasts. The preparations for this caper would be difficult and expensive, and such an insult would not go unnoticed. It's about the size of a big, heavy warhorse, and it gains bonuses to ride check. That's the D&D way of saying they help you ride better, faster. Flamewalker. I remember fighting a lot of these in the... I think you fight them in Molten Core and stuff like that, but I've had my most experience with them in Cataclysm Firelands. Challenge rating 8. A humanoid torso with long muscular arms rests on a serpent's body. The creature's elongated head has a distinctly demonic quality. Its body is mostly covered with yellow or red scales, though a broad strip of grayish scales runs from its chest down the front of its body. Thick spikes ranging from 1 to 3 feet long protrude from its shoulders, arms, and tail. Gotcha. Flamewalkers are ruthless servants of Ragnaros. They form a rigid society in the fiery regions of the elemental plane, ruled by a monarch who in turn answers only to Ragnaros. Flamewalkers speak Common and Kalamag. Flamewalkers are... So they're not demons, they're elementals. Flamewalkers are highly intelligent, so they use sophisticated tactics and strategies. A group of Flamewalkers commonly spreads out to prevent area attacks from hitting too many. They try to divide their opponents, such as through the use of Dominate Monster or Firestorm cast between opposing forces, so they're smart. Meanwhile, those Flamewalkers that engage in melee slowly retreat to draw away attackers, while other Flamewalkers wait to engage in flanking positions. They have so much heat that if you touch them, you take damage, and then they have some fire intrinsic abilities. All right, so we're technically at our 30 minutes, but I'm going to push forward and do G as well, since we only did 2 letters today. Let's do it. G is probably not too long anyway. We start with ghosts. Ghosts are the spectral remnants of intelligent beings who, for one reason or another, cannot rest easily in their graves. A ghost greatly resembles its corporeal form in life, but in some cases the spiritual form is somewhat altered. And then this shows you how to create a ghost, because they all have to be based on some kind of corporeal creature. So it's a template that's added on to lots of different types, not all. The only thing that we're seeing is it has a corrupting gaze, which makes a creature take charisma damage, and it has a corrupting touch, which drains strength. It has a draining touch, which I guess it drains the strength and heals them. It has a frightful moan, which causes fear. It has horrific appearance, which causes, when they use it, it's like a curse that takes away strength, agility, and stamina. And they have malevolence. It can merge and possess another creature. It has manifestation, which allows it to manifest instead of just floating around invisible, and then it can be tangible and tangibly fought. It also has telekinesis, and it has rejuvenation. It's harder to turn, and it also has ghostly equipment. So it can retain some of the items it had in life and use them. And we have a sample ghostly warrior, which is a challenge rating 3. A pale, translucent warrior dressed in armor from the distant past and bearing an ancient styled sword approaches. He seems ready to fight if necessary, determined to protect his ruined home. Ghosts are the disembodied spirits of the dead. They possess a number of mysterious powers designed to harm enemies of a similarly ghostly nature and to intimidate or weaken corporeal enemies. A creature becomes a ghost whenever he dies with some major purpose unaccomplished. Unlike the undead created by the Scourge, these restless beings are as often pitiable as fearsome. Usually only the living can end a ghost's eternal quest. Ghosts usually have a limited area in which they can move, usually some place that was important to them in life. They tend to inhabit ruined manors, castles, or battlegrounds, though they may turn up anywhere. Most ghosts speak Common and their native language, if that differs from Common, as well as any other tongues accorded to their race. And a ghost usually attacks only when threatened or if its nature is malevolent or life-hating. When a ghost does enter combat, it uses physical attacks only against other incorporeal creatures. Against all others, it uses its special attacks. Okay, ghouls are challenge rating 2s. This rotting corpse is hunched and seems ungainly, but it moves with surprising quickness. Its mouth is unnaturally wide, and yellow chisel-like teeth protrude from all angles. A long tongue snakes out of its mouth and darts from side to side. Ghouls are simple undead soldiers of the Scourge that seek only to rip living creatures apart with their cracked and yellowing claws, feasting on the remains. A spark of cunning burns in their rotted brains, inciting them to a frenzy when especially dangerous enemies approach, or when their master wills them to do so. Ghouls are infamous for feasting on the corpses of their enemies, which reinvigorates the creatures with unholy life. Only the Scourge and a few other necromancers know the secret of creating ghouls. Rumors say that zombies transform into ghouls when they make the transcendence too true on death, perhaps reclaiming a small portion of their former intelligence in the process. Ghouls speak in growling, phlegmy voices, but they only mutter to themselves. They do not normally communicate meaningfully. Ghouls throw themselves into combat, gleefully slashing with their thick claws. They usually enter a frenzy, though a necromancer or other creature who controls them can command them not to do so. Hey, getting with that gleeful, I mean, we're getting close to old Gleecon here. They have a ghoul frenzy, which is kind of like a mini berserk. They can cannibalize and eat the corpses, as we know. All right, we're now moving on to giants. There's a few types, not like as many as typical D&D, but challenge rating 13 is a frost giant. This huge creature looks like a snowy cliff face come to life. Ice and rock comprise its stout humanoid body, giving it a grizzled and ancient look. Cold blue eyes peer beneath its snowy brow. Okay. I can picture these in Northrend. Frost giants are a rare and winter spring, particularly cruel variety of giant. Some, the frost mauls, are found in the mountains of winter spring. Slow and patient, frost giants take great pleasure in wiping out entire herds of others' domesticated animals or even humanoid settlements. Gangs of them have been known to prepare an attack for over a year, slowly moving and hiding among the mountains, surrounding their target and cutting off all escape before finally beginning their assault. When the slaughter is over, nothing is left standing and the corpses are left to rot. Not much is known about frost giant society or mentality, but many scholars theorize that, like some other giants, they are creations of the Titans. I mean, they look like it. If this is the case, then their purpose remains a mystery. Perhaps their most famous entry into history occurred 4,000 years ago when Tyrande Whisperwind saved the Frost Saber Queen from rampaging Frostmaul giants, thereby securing the Frost Saber's loyalty. When did we get that lore? Is that something that we get in Classic, like when we do Winter Spring? Maybe. A frost giant's 20 feet tall, 15,000 pounds. Attacks from the frost giants are usually vicious and well coordinated, although a frost giant avoids a fight in which it suspects it might be overmatched. If it has an advantage at range, it stays back, pummeling its opponents with rocks. If melee combat serves it better, it attempts to sunder its opponent's weapons, leaving them helpless. And it has rock throwing, rock catching, regeneration, and it is extra good at hiding in the snow. Okay, there are also molten giants. We fight these probably in the molten core. They're challenge rating 12, so they're a pinch weaker than the frost. I think in D&D, frost and fire are like the same. Small glowing yellow eyes peer out of a massive red stone skull. In fact, this creature's entire body is formed from chunks of red stone, even what appears to be a beard or mane. Its arms and legs are thick pillars of rock, and every inch is covered with molten veins. Molten giants are the brutal and cunning frontline defenders of Ragnaros' army. They view themselves as an autonomous society, serving their Flamewalker masters and even Ragnaros himself only by choice. The truth is they could not leave his service if they wanted to, but they are a proud race and refuse to believe otherwise. Molten giants are opportunistic among their own kind. Their leaders continually jockey for position within their ranks and seek favor with the Flamewalker nobility. Molten giants speak Kalamag. Molten giants stand toe-to-toe with foes, slamming and bashing until each opponent in turn stops moving. When molten giants fight in pairs, one sometimes uses a war stomp while the other slams prone victims. If lava is present, as it often is near a molten giant settlement, molten giants attempt to bull rush victims into it. Okay, they have heat, meaning if you touch them, ouch, it hurts. They can throw rocks. They actually have telekinesis too, and they can catch rocks. All right, the sea giants have two varieties, 12 and 14. This regular sea giant, meaning challenge rating 12, is as strong as a molten, whereas the sea giant behemoth are stronger than the ones we've read so far at 14. This humanoid stands nearly 30 feet tall. An enormous green beard flows down its chest, nearly obscuring the shark hide breastplate it wears. And two yellow eyes stare out from its sea green face. Starfish and seashells adorn its outfit, and it carries an enormous rusted anchor in one hand. Titans created the sea giants to dredge the oceans and to serve as guardians of Azeroth's coastlines and oceans. And the fierce giants act as protectors of the waters even now. They keep a wary eye on ships and upon those who make their living on the ocean, such as fisher folk. While not evil creatures, sea giants care nothing for the laws of land dwellers or the lives of the small beings that trespass in the waves. They tolerate no opposition. On the rare occasion when a sea giant issues a warning, he does so only once. Sea giants rarely interact with other races save to drive off trespassers or punish those who befoul the oceans. They live underwater but rise regularly to patrol their coastlines, these guys. Ancient and wise, sea giants nonetheless display a chaotic nature as unpredictable as the sea itself. Still, adventurers who tread carefully and speak convincingly may find a sea giant willing to trade information or secure safe passage in exchange for treasure or knowledge. Sea giants sometimes build underground settlements of coral and stone, though they rarely put much effort into such constructions. As guardians of the waves, they prefer to be able to pick up and leave at a moment's notice to chase rumors of defilers. They speak Common and Titan. I gotta say, I'm learning. Like, these things, I don't think I've ever dived into the lore of some of these other side giants, and pretty neat. Sea giants can hurl boulders, but they prefer close combat. A sea giant begins combat with a slam attack using its bash against the nearest opponent. If surrounded, he chooses the target who seems the largest or strongest. He then switches to his heady pick, so whoever is generating the most threat, and attacks the next nearest opponent. That's pretty much the strategy of, hey, spoiler, every monster in WoW. He uses his power attack and reckless attack feats to their fullest degrees, hoping to kill an enemy outright and then cleave into the next. He generally positions himself near multiple foes if possible so that he can use his Great Cleave feat. He has an Anchor Smash. It's like bash with an anchor. He can pulverize extra. It looks like his attacks are AoE. Rock throwing. He has some water-based spell-like abilities. He's amphibious. And the sea giant behemoth, this green-skinned humanoid, stands almost 60 feet tall. Ropes of seaweed tangle in its thick green beard, and a massive suit of sharkskin armor encompasses its frame. It carries a monstrous iron anchor as a weapon in one hand. Sea giants revere sea giant behemoths as the eldest and most powerful of their race. Some scholars claim the sea giant behemoths are in fact those same giants the Titans originally created, though no one's ever proven this. That's a cool theory. Sea giant behemoths begin combat by using their war stomp, then they adopt the tactics listed in the sea giant entry. They 2 have a stronger pulverize. They throw rock throwing. I don't even know what the heck War Stomp is. It's not even listed. They can also use Whirlwind, though. All right, here we go with gnolls. I would imagine you can make a gnoll character, but I don't know yet. It's a challenge rating of 3. This brutish humanoid has a face that resembles a hyena or perhaps a wild dog. Slightly taller than a human, it has gray skin and yellowish red fur. Its eyes gleam with feral cunning. Gnolls are a relatively young race known for their beastly cunning, their ferocious tempers, and their penchant for infighting. Though more intelligent than beasts, they tend to lack the finer reasoning of other sentient races. They enjoy fighting almost too much and would be formidable opponents if they did not fall prey constantly to internecine. I don't know how to. Where's the? That's a word I don't know, but it basically means infighting. Internecine bickering. Internecine. Gnolls make their home in Lordaeron in the Alterac Mountains and the Red Ridge Mountains, but they've spread throughout Azeroth, even to Kalimdor, where they compete with other aggressive humanoids for hunting grounds. Their tendency to challenge each other over petty matters such as who is the tallest prevents them from achieving any real unity and thus lessens their overall threat. This is fortunate, for their numbers are such that they could easily overrun other races of equivalent strengths. Occasionally, gnolls hire out as mercenaries, either as individuals or in small packs of 2 to 5. They speak Low Common, which is basically common for dum-dums. Gnolls like to attack when they have the advantage of numbers, using group tactics and their physical strength to overwhelm and knock down their opponents. They show little discipline in battle unless they have a strong leader. At such times, they can maintain ranks and fight as a unit. While they do not usually prepare traps, gnolls do use ambushes and try to attack from a flanking position. They always take special care to seek the most favorable conditions possible, such as darkness, cover, or some other form of advantageous condition or terrain when laying ambushes. The gnoll presented above uses the Elite Ability Score Array and has 3 levels, and they can be made into gnoll character classes. Neat. And they like to be scouts. Leper Gnomes. Challenge rating 1/2. These guys are weaklings. The creature resembles a starved gnome with sickly green skin. He wears a dented breastplate and a small buckler. A short sword hangs at his hip, and he occasionally fingers the pistol in his belt holster. His eyes glow with a dull green light, and his cracked and bloated lips curve in a manic grin. When High Tinker Mechatork initiated his advisor's plan and flooded Gnomeregon's halls with radiation, the radiation did succeed in stopping the Trog's advance for a time, but it ultimately killed more gnomes than Trogs. Even worse, though, many gnomes still within Gnomeregon's halls became horribly mutated and insane, changing into what are now known as leper gnomes. Leper gnomes vaguely resemble normal gnomes. Emaciated and sickly, their skin is bloated and green with gangrene, while their eyes glow with a color and light similar to that of the radioactive pools in their once beautiful city. Even worse than their physical mutation, though, is the perverse madness caused by the poisoning that twisted their bodies. While individuals among them may seem saner than others, they are all irrevocably twisted. Leper gnomes claim Gnomeregon as their own, and led by Mechgineer Thermoplug, defend its halls with horrible constructs and their own prowess. They continue their battle against the Trogs, who are more dangerous now due to the radioactive goo that clings to their rock-like skin. Other mutated creatures lurk in the shadows, killing whatever crosses their paths. Perhaps the worst enemies in their minds are true gnomes, whom they blame for their current existence. They regard High Tinker Mechatork as a demon, and his followers not much better. They regard all other creatures as intruders and quickly put them down. Recently, however, some adventurers have seen leper gnomes in company with dark iron dwarves. Many theorize that Thermoplug is attempting an alliance between the two underground races in an attempt to strengthen his own forces and finally defeat the Trogs. Leper gnomes speak common and gnome. The leper gnome's tactics vary at his whims. Sometimes he charges blindly in with a sword flailing, while other times he snipes from strategic locations. They use a non-elite stat block because they suck. And they can be made into player characters. They have benefits to agility and intellect, but penalties to strength and spirit. They are good as tinkers or rogues. They're small. They have dark vision. They're good at crafting still, listening, scouting. Yeah. Okay. Now we have golems. They give it as a class, but they only give us 1 stat block. Anyone that's in Westfall knows there's a few of these. A few different types, even within Westfall. The word golem refers to any vaguely humanoid-shaped construct built by another creature. Golems of stone, metal, straw, and even flesh exist in some... in Naxxramas. In some cases, a bound elemental or eldritch magic animates the golem. Other golems are purely mechanical constructs. All golems share a number of traits. As mindless, soulless constructs, they cannot feel, nor do they require food, air, or sleep. They follow orders literally and unrelentingly. Adventurers cannot reason with golems. They cannot bargain with golems. A golem is a tool, a weapon with a specific purpose. It fulfills that purpose or dies trying. Golems withstand even the harshest environments. This trait, combined with their loyalty, makes them excellent guardians for vaults and underground lairs. The harvest golem is described below. Other types of golems undoubtedly exist. This is a challenge rating 5. Eyes like live coals peer out from under the brim of a battered farmer's hat. Wisps of straw protrude from the creature's sleeves and the collar of its tattered shirt. It shambles forward with disturbing swiftness, 4 gleaming blades stabbing out from each shirt cuff. I gotta say, that's kind of a cop-out. They're like, we don't want to make that many more pages, but there's definitely other types of golems. Tons. They have some annoying traits. I wonder if we'll get some of these. Yeah, we'll talk about those when we get to their things. But anyway, 3 qualities that make a harvest golem so terrifying. Its surprising speed, its harmless appearance. I don't think it appears harmless. I'd poop my pants if I saw one. And its merciless battle tactics. A harvest golem appears at first to be a common scarecrow. Only a closer examination reveals its snarling face, glowing eyes, and unnaturally long arms and dagger fingers. And by then, it's usually too late. Goblins created the first harvest golems to serve as guardians, setting the constructs to patrol the fields of Westfall. The goblins' first attempts were too effective. The golems killed so quickly and ruthlessly that no victims remained to spread tales of the horrifying guardians. Goblin takers thus hamstrung one of their creations just long enough for a survivor to spread the word. Within weeks, the fields of Westfall stood empty save for their silent, shambling caretakers. Harvest golems have since spread to other territories, leaving fear and mutilated corpses in their wake. So they're explaining why is Westfall just full of harvest golems. And that's why it was a brilliant marketing campaign by neutral goblins. That's kind of funny. A harvest golem poses as a simple scarecrow, long enough for its victims to enter partial charge range. It then charges, utilizes its backstab ability to rip the throat out of its nearest opponent. While mindless, a harvest golem possesses a degree of innate cunning, a touch above that of most golems, modifying its tactics somewhat in response to enemies' attacks. A harvest golem never retreats, so it can backstab. Except, interesting. That's weird. It does have keen claws. Its dagger hands are super sharp, dagger fingers. It's immune to magic, and it's immune to taunting and growling. It's immune to fear. It's immune to bleeding. It's a pain in the butt to fight. For those resistances, it just limits your toolkit. It has a lifeless mean, so it can also, if it's standing still, it's hard to detect. It does, however, it says its claws are masterwork daggers. I wish that was true. If you could get 8 masterwork daggers every time you killed one. And they can be constructed, and they kind of give the traits of that. I don't know what a grell. There's grell and yeah, they're fae, so there's some kind of like demon. There's grell and grellkin. These guys, yeah. They're like entry-level demons. 1/3 challenge rating or 1. They're like the weakest of all demons. And this is the last thing that we will read here today, because we are getting close to 1 hour on this episode. The small skipping creature looks a bit like a thin, gangly orange goblin. Large ears spread from its bald head. Its pupilless yellow eyes stare at you as it raises a clawed paw. Grell are small, playful creatures that can be encountered in wild areas. They're not particularly dangerous individually, but in gangs they can pose a threat to outlying night elf and furbolg communities. They may be small and unimpressive, but their claws are sharp. Scattered groups of them are actively malicious. Yeah, this is like starting zone fodder. Some Grell wear earrings, which scholars believe may possess magical traits. Grell are fond of hyacinth mushrooms. Grell are not particularly hostile generally. They are content to leave potential dangers alone. If an opponent attacks, however, they defend themselves fiercely. Grell and a gang feel no particular connection to each other, it seems, and are as likely to assist their comrade as to watch the combat idly. That explains why they're yellow instead of, like, why they're neutral instead of hostile. Grellkin are a bit larger and more mischievous than Grell, and they use tactics similar to Grell, though the occasional Grellkin wields a manufactured weapon. All right, so as you can see, next time with H's, we'll do Harpies. I don't know why. This just took us a little bit longer to get through this chunk, but maybe I just took my time more. Because I'm actually enjoying this book more than I have many of the other books in this series. But hey, thank you everyone for watching. We have another episode in the pipe, 5x5, and I look forward to seeing everyone next time on Lore of Warcraft.